Hello everybody, going to do an update. I know a lot of people are asking a lot of questions. My messenger I'll never catch up, but we're going to have this live now. I'll let people come on. We're going to talk about where I'm at, step by step. China move today that wasn't really out of the ordinary for me. Anyone who's been following me over the last several months, never mind the last 4 years, I've been at the P5 front line and center for a very long time. In fact, since Donald Trump's election, I had all kinds of things rolled out for Canada and the international stage. Absolutely, I've been on this a very long time. First Nations have always been there for me. The residential school, all of it, even more than that. I have much more than just that. Why go into them? Why people have to stop? And I've made posts, lots of posts for those who loyally follow me for a long time. People cycle and circulate. I got people tagging me in posts from Western Standard. Media right across Canada, left or right, a lot of them block me. Western Standard blocked me. I'm unable to like, comment, just like Jason Kenney. It's no different. Anyone who knows my history with Derek Fildebrandt, who runs the Western Standard, you'll know I ran against him and I kicked his ass in 2019. Reality is, Derek Fildebrandt plays checkers. I play chess. That's a reality. It's a quote, a saying I said in 2019, and absolutely I destroyed him in 2019. I made lots of publications when I had my website going. I did 2 press releases going through CPP, the Jason Kenney, and both Derek Fildebrandt, champion, more colonial crap that will destroy Canadians. I am all about the Canadian, the First Nation, all of you together. I see a great, tremendous path forward for Canada as a nation of such wealth and resource potential, power of the people potential. That's the work I've embarked on. I did that for Alberta, the province, because I was prepared to leave Canada. I've given this last chance, this last roll of the dice, to absolutely fix Canada. And only reason, everybody, Albertans who ask about this, the only reason is, of all the Treaty First Nations out west in the province of Alberta, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, a lot of them liked my presentation. A lot of the chiefs did, but they wanted it to be for all of Canada. I heard that time and time again. You're going to have to do it for all of Canada. We're not going to split up. I know in the east here, as well as BC, they don't overlap with the Treaty First Nations, but I can tell everybody publicly now tonight, that's reality. That's the truth. That's what First Nations wanted. I embarked on this road because, you know what? It is possible. It took 2 years from provincial politics on the international stage. There is not a Canadian, there is not one who's put more time in the P5 than I have. People don't even know what that means. A lot of people, not you, the loyal followers, but it's the masses of Canada. It's everybody who doesn't really understand that there is only one court in this world with any authority or power on any given UN state and government anywhere, or military regime, or kind of would-be dictators. You are subject to that P5. The entire world is. Anyone who's a UN state is subject to the P5. This is China. This is Russia. This is the United States of America. This is UK, and this is France. I now have in my possession Sir Winston Churchill's letter from 1941, and I'm going to tell you all about that. This is the letter to absolutely United States of America, Russia, and the other allies who had not entered World War II. Did you know at the time, everybody, China hadn't really even entered World War II. Japan had invaded. Did you know that the civil war between the Beijing and Taiwanese regime was so massive it dwarfed World War II? It dwarfed World War II. Absolutely. China had no time for World War II. and then they made time. The letter from the UK Prime Minister that went to the Allies and went out was a call for help. Even King George and Winston Churchill were ready to give up the colonialism because it was a colonial war. They would have done anything. Why people always say, why did USA take so long to get into World War II? Well, it wasn't because they cared about Germany, regardless of the fanatic left. And this is not on Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, but this is generally a Democrat issue they always try to throw on Republicans. The reality was, and I have the letter, you guys. I got that from UK, highest international criminal court institution in the United Kingdom. I'm with all those academics now too. I've just been ascending and ascending. The further I go on the international stage, I'm at literally the level where I'm with the best of the best. People can laugh. They can say, why would a welder, why would an academic, smart guy, but you're economics, you're not in law, you don't even have a law degree. But I study that stuff, and I put the time in, I put the effort. That's where I ended up. I've stuck with it, not only through the 2 years of independence, I've done that full time for 2 years post my independence party, my resignation. And it's where I've gotten with constitutionalism what international law is. The UN Charter of 1945 is the world constitution outlining how we are all to operate with each other. Now, yes, treaties override that. For all of you saying that China owns Canada, oh, we're doomed, I am sorry. This part, I can use my degree to tell you, no, we are not doomed. No, China does not own Canada. Do they have some of the debt? Yes. Resoundingly, United States of America owns most of Canada's foreign debts. United States of America. They're also the largest shareholder of all the 6 organs, and I've listed them for you all lots of times over years, but of the 6 main organs of the UN, the binding organs that are the UN, the first 3 are unanimously mostly owned by the United States of America. That's reality. UNSC is the #1 primary organ, decided by UK, France, USA, Russia, and China. Why are those 3? Because they won the war and they ended colonialism forever. Forever. They make all the world laws in the world. The only time the General Assembly is ever allowed to make laws is if the 5 have all voted yes for it to a General Assembly resolution, which hardly ever happens. Hardly ever. Maybe 1 in 500. Honestly, that's the way it is since its inception. UNSC voted a pandemic just recently. They all 5 got together. They also all 5 rolled out vaccines. That's what they chose. They were voted by all of us to oversee the world. The joke of America being world police. Well, so is Russia. I can tell you all right now, backing the indigenous genocide right now, China, absolutely. Syria went through. I already know Russia is. I already know UK is. I already know the United States of America is under Joe Biden. That's reality. That's where we're at. Now, France, Macron, I don't have anything absolutely definitive with France, but it's more than 99.2% chance France is on board. Historically, in all of this, I've gotten their messages through the Twitter, and it's they give a plain speak, but they critical of genocide, women, children's genocide. That's what I got, which to me, that tells me they're 100% behind it. That's 5 out of 5, okay? 5 out of 5, according to the presentation I'm rolling out. They're going to go for it. I need the Catholic Church. We also need the Catholic Church, I believe, to make a commitment to the ICC for resources. I think this is great for First Nations. The First Nations law firms that are attached, at least with me, there are two. one of which Vancouver, another one in BC. We'll see there's several businesses that have put their business names on this around the country. And then there are over 1,600 names of First Nations and many, many Canadians. People who talk about race outside of First Nations, saying, we need equality for all. We are in a criminal case for genocide. Women and children outlawed in the world. It's not about racism. Racism is an issue, sure, with every race. We're talking about a government plotting the destruction of a specific race, and they did that through either women or children. And you could argue that it was done to the women, because when you take children away from a mother by force, and then you go off and you murder those children, the damage is done. You've murdered that mother as well, too. It can be clearly stated that it's women and children's genocide. This is reality, everybody. There are no African American Canadians who were by government mandated to be genocide. There's no other race in Canada that's ever been mandated to be genocided, which is illegal in this world. It has been absolutely defined since 1945. And Canada has continued to perpetuate that against one specific race, the First Nations, which are the key, everybody, the key to breaking colonialism absolutely forever in the Canadian political system. That's how we do it. This is the one case I've looked at for a long time, worked very hard. I've learned the P5, I've learned the ICC in its entirety. I was going with the pastors as a preliminary run. I've always promised this for First Nations, but I didn't want to go out my first run at it until I was absolute. It was forced on me when 12 lawyers came forward, not slamming them. They just don't understand international law. Canada is very, very terrible at this because of our legal system and the way they've trained our lawyers. That's because we're colonial. It's nobody's fault, just like it's not the police's fault when they arrest people and say the Queen did it. It's not the military's fault that they're lining up for vaccines regardless because they think the Queen mandated it. Queen Elizabeth II hasn't mandated nothing. I hold in my possession from the highest legal institute in the United Kingdom, Sir Winston Churchill's letter in 1941, backed up by none other than King George VI, because UK was devastated by Germany at the time. They were at the end of their rope. They needed allies. They needed somebody to come in and be victorious. But it was a war of colonials, everybody. Colonials. Colonial empires who, by definition, go into other countries that aren't theirs, massacre everybody, or rape, pillage, plunder them, and then bring in their own populations, forcing their culture, their language, their values, and mandate genocide against those peoples. That's what colonials do. That's what they've always done. This was ruled illegal in 1945. Canada, which was mandated by King George when they got to it, when he got to Canada, because he had all kinds of other empire colonial countries promised in 1941, the letter that got USA to fight the war, got Russia to come in, but Russia was coming anyway because of Germany. But they all came in. China came in too. They all agreed. And you can look at the League of Nations. The Axis powers came from that. That wasn't China. USA was no member. Russia only got in at the end. And why did they get in? Because of World War II, and they had to. They had to, because now they were being threatened because all the other countries fell. Russia and USA, so former Soviet Union, regardless of how you feel about communism and communist China, they have never, neither of those three countries, Russia, USA, China, have never, ever, in their entirety, ever invaded to take over and plant their flags in other countries. And for those of you, radical leftists who may come and look at this video, I can guarantee you, and I will argue with your best academic from the left, even in America, and I will win on this. And it's not, I don't, slavery was wrong and all that, but how did slavery get into America? How did it get into the southern states? I suggest all those lefties read my paper to Oxford, or at least get off your butt, grab the Google, go search where those colonial empires came into America, how America was created before independence, and then when it went to independence, what it inherited and what it's worked itself into in a union. Because all that was inherited from Americans fighting and defeating colonial powers from all sides. I can show you each and every one. There's a reason why Americans, even in their independence, they still had issues with a lot of their states as they created their union that were still leftovers of colonialism. But the power of their independence, the power of their Constitution, saw them through, even through the American Indian, even through gross slavery to now till today. America's Constitution, the American people, we the people, supremacy of God in America was strong enough to defeat it all. This can be Canada too. Democracy is work in progress. If you have the right Constitution, if you go the righteous path of constitutionalism, you can do it too. You can even have more rights than the very old institution of the United States if you do it all right, which requires the greatest minds, yes, from the left, yes, from the right, and yes, from the center, and all kinds of governments all around the world, even communist governments. There is at least 11% of that type of governing system in the constitutionalism that Canadians actually like from all walks. They don't even know that. They don't even know that a lot of their rights came actually from that. Even America got that. At least their U.S. regional states. All around the world, what you never hear about is regional constitutions. Many countries, especially Europe, regionalism, dirty word. But that's not the West. That's not even Russia. It's important, regionalism. These constitutions are important too. The strength of America is just as hardy with the regions as it is the federal constitution. The federal constitution is only half of America's soul. The rest lies in each and every one of those 50 states and the powers of those 50 states enshrined in absolute we the people constitutionalism and supremacy of God in 2/3 of their designated powers. Canadians know none of this because you have 0 regional constitutions. That's what this is all about, more than just, yes, we want to free the First Nations people, but they need it too. The World P5 have an excellent source of constitutionalism called the UN Charter of 1945. No, the world is not operating on the Charter. Most of them have scrapped it, thrown away. Canadians don't even know it, have never read it. No government would ever want you to read that. They would never want you to know that your country is absolute garbage. Outlawed for a very, very long time. One of the last of the last. A vast country of such a small population on this earth, so much of it you'll never touch or see, and your greasy, filthy politicians fill their back pockets every time, and every one of them, which I know in Alberta right now, I know the separatists are going through everything I told you would go through. They're going through it. Even Derek Fildebrandt, the idiot, the checker player, even he's watching his, even no matter how much money they pump into it, it's going down the toilet. Because they're getting smart. The people are waking up that there's more than just independence or more than just a political platform. We need to empower all the people of Canada. We need to educate. And if that means forcing it, forcing it by taking that genocide, the genocide I promised that I would address many years ago in Alberta, and I kept my word, and I've stuck with it, and I've worked hard, and I have done what I'm going to do across Canada, and I've done it, more importantly, out on the world stage. Now, Canada's going to suppress, they're going to keep me down. That's always been the way, because absolute power corrupts, and everybody wants that crown. I think I'm going to make a professional Lord of the Rings version of Canada and the history of UK and colonialism that Canada stole and kept with. And, 13 provinces. It's like the 10 provinces and 3 territories. It's like the 12 rings, and there's one to rule them all, which is the federal crown of Ottawa. They call it Queen Elizabeth II, but she's never governed Canada ever in her entire reign. Her entire reign and ascension. All of you can pick up Google. You can look in 1952. Look at the overlap of Governor General of Canada. Look at the overlap of Lieutenant Governors of every province and territory. And you will find that they were all UK lords, barons, whatever, appointed by the Majesty of UK from 1952. After that, it was absolutely over. Completely over. It's always been by whomever you've elected Prime Minister. They are in charge of your courts. They rule over all your judges. They absolutely control through Governor General. Governor General, which means Prime Minister, your Supreme Court of Canada, highest court. It's King's Court. This is the same for the highest court of every province and territory, the Superior Court of the province. It's why for $3 I can sue Queen Elizabeth II on Native Family Social Services Toronto, and it will be Doug Ford forced to put on the wig and dress, figuratively, and drag Queen out as Queen Elizabeth II. Of course, he'll have to force his Deputy Attorney General, and then they will hire a law firm to answer me. I will definitely lose because nobody can beat the crown. But what I could do, First Nations, what's more important here, you're fighting to get those records from that government agency in Toronto, and there's 200 more to do. But what I could do, even in a loss, even in a major loss in that court, I can still get and demand the full disclosure leading up to the court case. That's what I can do for just $3. I don't need millions of dollars. I'm not some corrupt piece of shit. I'm a human being who actually cares about the path forward. And more than that, I would use that for the ICC as Exhibit 721. That's how many exhibits I have. I'm happy that Native law firms are on board. They can help me navigate with Kareem Khan. They can help me with that in legal speak, the words legal speak. But absolutely, when it comes to direction and how to take this forward, navigating the P5, that's my expertise. You'll find it was China who invited only one Canadian to the Africa-China Symposium. That was me, where they took my Oxford paper, and the one Chinese communist great academic who's now with me as another one of my world academics from China, wrote a paper in detail just on my small portion that I wrote about China and Africa over 600 and equivalent 1100 years ago on world law, China, Africa, that no Western would ever know about, but I did the research. I just didn't know the names of the Chinese rulers in as much detail. Obviously, how would I? I don't speak Chinese. I tried my best to translate. He writes a full paper and presents on that symposium, hosted by Communist China. Everyone at work that walked by that day that I was at the nuclear plant clearly saw, they're like, "You're live, you're with Communist China Party." And there was 20 of them, all in masked Chinese Communist Party, and several major academics from many, many African nations. I learned a tremendous amount. I've been on Bingham now. UK realizes I've been in. From there, I just keep going further and further. I'm right up there with the P5 now. And on the 28th, I'm going to prove to everybody that presentation's going in. ICC letter, everybody, has already gone in. quite a bit some time ago now. Karim Khan already got that. I got my receipt on the 16th. More than that is I'm going basically to his bosses, the people that if he should prosecute and go through this case, the ruling of the judges of the ICC is only a recommendation to the P5, and they enact everything. They are judge, jury, executioner. You want to talk blue helmets, radical UN? No. The UNSC decide when blue helmets come, and if blue helmets are going to come to Canada, it's going to be to secure evidence sites or to arrest politicians alive today. That's reality. Karim Khan goes on, talks about resources. They're going to need resources. I'm going to work for free. There's 2 First Nation law firms. I'm trying to get some more out west who are going to hopefully come on board. It's outside their general area, but again, with legal speak, maybe some legal documents, they could help with that. Real lawyers, real people with firms, maybe they can help with that, help with the Canadian resource to the ICC, and maybe the Catholic Church in the entirety of the bishops will come on board, which I believe they will, and absolutely assist the ICC with whatever they need. Maybe that means putting up investigators, helping with places to stay, cooperating, turning over evidence, all of it against the government. That's what I hope to see here. And I have strong faith now after the great conversations I had today. It was great through Quebec and even out west with bishops and more importantly an archbishop, which was huge. And now it's going to be the whole presentation to the absolute entirety of all bishops and archbishops. And let's just hope Monday morning with the 1,600 names, the First Nation law firms, and absolutely all the businesses, we add all archdioceses in Canada. Wouldn't that be something? I think at that point, Karim Khan's going to take that. If the P5's happy with it and they give a thumbs up on the 28th, you know what? It's over for Canada. And even if I don't see anything with the party, at least everybody understand this. First Nations Canadians, not only are you going to get some real justice that could last many decades, taxpayers, which I call the boat people, the white people, the all immigrants who become Canadian citizens, the people who have to pay the politicians out of theirs, at least they won't be condemned. It will be the politicians, as it should be. This is the only court in the world where that's possible. And from there, think about this, everybody. First Nations, Canadians, even those First Nations who worked with and for the Canadian government over these times to screw over their own people, they'll be nailed too. Those who were appointed by governments in these positions who administered this stuff, if they're alive today, they will be punished. If what people don't understand is what will come forward of this is every politician's going to go, whoa, wait a minute, Canada's broken. I don't like the idea of being elected and all of a sudden I'm in some foreign court where they could kill me. And that's happened, you guys. This happened in Germany's history and others. It's happened all the time. ICC to the P5 or just the P5 themselves, they can murder anybody. That's the wrong word. Never use that word. It's execute. They've been given this power on their earth to execute whomever they want when they violated their laws. You don't learn this growing up in school, but it happens all the time. And then news medias from different sources will condemn a government or a politician, and they don't understand. This is the power of the 5. They all do it. They all can routinely do it whenever they want. And when you go rogue in your country, expect that they will come. When you start doing human rights violations, they will come. Now we have a serious highlight, and they're ready to come. And this isn't China owning Canada. Again, USA owns 65% of Canada's foreign debt. China's way down here. I mean, they're there, but they're way down here. USA, by far, owns most of Canada's foreign debt. That's a reality, Canadians. But remember, you only have 11% of the country. You don't know this, but it's true. Crown land sits there. First Nations only have 8%. A vast majority of it, not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but it's Métis Nation that has a vast majority of the remaining 8%. Absolutely, the redder your blood, the less you got, to the point that most First Nations of true status, treaty for sure, have absolutely crumbs of the crumb. Not even enough land to ever make a living. And then there was the plow, horse and plow. They weren't allowed. Stripped of their resource rights. This isn't the same in the United States of America, everybody. The Allies are waking up dramatically fast. And I feed them. I've been feeding them for years. Going to bigger and better institutions higher up the food chain. That's what I've been doing 2 full years straight. Collecting, building, looking at Canada as it really is, and learning the truth. You all want freedom. Some people have a left version of that. Some people have a right version of that. You don't get along because your government's divided you. They've tricked you. And they run off with all the money, and they suppress all of you. One will champion a few rights while raping you of the rest. The other one says, we'll give you those ones they raped from you, but then they strip you of a whole nother set. And meanwhile, they're both working for the same foreign interests who absolutely want to see all of you dead. Starting absolutely with the First Nations people. That's what they want. They've always wanted that. It's not the P5's way. It's not even world law. Canada adopts laws from the last tier of the UN, the General Assembly, bottom of the barrel, last tier. The ideas machine, because it's a democracy. Any idea you want to bring forward to the General Assembly, go ahead. But if the P5 shoot it down, it's shot down. Why does Canada continue to sign these? When UNDRIP was shot down, there was a reason for that, First Nations. It was shot down because it didn't give you sovereignty, self-determination, self-governance. It didn't really give you true sovereignty. How could it? Read the Constitution of Canada. You give away your sovereignty. So do Canadians. So does every immigrant who comes here. And then Canada tries creative ways that, we're going to put you underneath the crown in the immigrant swearing of the oath so that they know you are subject to the crown. You're underneath the crown. You have zero sovereignty. You give your sovereignty away. So then what is a First Nation? People can say what they want to say, but this work is real. The world laws are real. And when you go too far, when a government goes too far, as Canada clearly has, a day of reckoning comes. Especially when they're pointing the finger at everybody else. You know, I look at it like this. You know that when you're in a long-term relationship and a spouse, you hear this, or you've seen friends, or the one spouse is always accusing the other spouse of cheating all the time, and it's just abnormal, and they keep going and going on it, and they're always watching what the other one's doing, and it's abuse, right? But the reason why they're like that is because they're the ones who are doing the cheating. They're the ones doing all this stuff. That's why it's in their head. They do it, so they expect everybody else to do it. And that is the exact same thing as Canada. Canada is guilty of all the atrocities, all the corruption, all the insidious things that you all call the NWO, because Canada's government is the NWO. They're leading in the world. The Allies are now clearly seeing it. They see the games afoot. The P5, let's hope everybody at least come together to do the right thing and do their jobs. As you all Canadian citizens, First Nations, you pay, it's not an absorbent amount, but you do pay a due to be a UN citizen. Last time I checked, Canada's paid their dues. It's not an absorbent amount. It's just in the tens of millions a year. That's it. That to get this power of the P5, the ICC, to come in when it's needed. It's what allows you to travel the world and have so many rights that you would never have in Canada. First Nations, most of the things that you think you've won over the years by fighting the Canadian government, you didn't win at all. Same with Canadians. But First Nations, this is important. I can show you every time you want on enfranchisement. I can provide the UNSC law that was passed just a few months before, mandating that Canada give you that. I can show you how world binding law by the five said this is over, and Canada had no choice to comply, or they would have been facing the blue helmets. That's the truth. I can show you time and time again. Why did the Supreme Court all of a sudden rule in your favor? Because the world binding powers made a world binding law, and Canada had to, even though they still continue on genocides. And this is another one now that is clearly open as a book. And if we do it right, and we do it with the UNSCP 5 in mind, never mind legal mumbo jumbo, because this doesn't work. This isn't really international law. Lawyers are trained. Yes, they have legal speak. Yes, they have court systems. This is unlike any other court system in the world. It is the highest court in the world. And while the court system, ICC, runs a lot like Canada's, which will be comfortable for Canadian and First Nation lawyers, their ruling and how they go about the case has to match what the Allies want to see and what they've ruled as law, because the ICC is their court, and they say yea or nay to that too. UNSC is the highest authority in the world. The P5 specifically are the highest authority in the world, and they rule on everything, including the ICC, their court to go do investigations, come up with a decision, and we must make sure, regardless of me not being a lawyer, it's about that the court proceeding goes in the direction that the P5 can support. That means bringing the Vatican on board, the Canadian archdiocese, all of them on board, not trying to take them to a court that they can't be tried in. And even if you do, because ICC may be able to do that, but I'll tell you, Karim Khan clearly articulates on the 16th, it's only UN states. He backs up a lot of what I said, and he had my letter before that, and I got my receipt the same day he gave his tremendous presentation. I got my receipt. Unlike everybody else saying they got receipts before that, I don't see how, as I've been in contact with Fatuma, I went through a process of sanctions. She couldn't take my case over Christmas. For loyal followers of my party board, know what I've all done. And I've been on that stage several times, including formers are now on my friends list. Formers are following me. People with those kinds of followings and those power positions in the world don't follow welders or third-class citizens unless the work I'm doing overlaps the kind of work they do and they find it of value. That's the truth. People can take it as they want. The reality is, you will all see on the 28th, and it will be our presentation in there. Let's hope we have the Catholic Church in Canada, all the dioceses. That's my mission for the rest of the week. I will present and publish the email to Karim Khan and the Archdiocese, so you all know I tried. You will all see that coming probably tomorrow night. I just got into other things tonight. There were several phone conferences, but I will finish that tomorrow night. But I still need to continue on the phone calls. But it was a tremendous day. It was great. The talks were great. Lots of activity in Canada. Churches being burned down. Canadians mad about that. First Nations explaining why they did it and how dare you. It's genocide, everybody. This is called fallout. Maybe that will help the church come around. I don't know. And I don't know First Nations, and I understand why Canadians think the way they do. We're all institutionalized. I know. I've been 4 years with the greatest minds and powers in the world to deinstitutionalize myself. I know how much it takes to get here. For my loyal followers, thank you. Now I'm going to go through and let's look at questions. I don't have my glasses, but we'll see. My eyes are a little fuzzy because I had to do some reading tonight, but let's go through and see what everybody has to say here. Now, I will try to answer all your questions, try to make things make sense as best as possible. Let's see. Ooh, do. Lots of people came on, eh? But probably a lot's left too, 'cause it's only 44, but it looks like hundreds. It doesn't matter that you're a welder. You don't need to be a lawyer either. Just an interest and determination in what you're doing, Dave. The person who figured out the gravitational pull was... Oop. Gravitational pull was an electrician, not a world-renowned physicist, just an ordinary guy with a weird interest in the gravity pull of the universe. Thanks, brother. That's right. The natives should get first justice over all other claims. Yeah, for sure, especially on the ICC will determine that, but it'll be the P5 who administer justice. It's just, I think, for Canadians, we're so used to always, like taxpayers, I guess this is a way to say it, all taxpayers are used to always being accountable for the politician. This court that we're going to, everybody, this is the first court that the Canadian government doesn't have a say over, and it's against the Canadian government. And absolutely, you can look at the history of ICC. I've studied them, everybody, for 2 years, all their cases currently and over the last 2 years, and historical ones. It's why I knew you can't take the Vatican, even though ICC did. But if any one of those lawyers looked at what came of that action, you'll see it was losing with the P5. This is what I mean. This is what I bring. This is what I bring to the table to say, yes, I understand your legal speak. I understand what you're doing in your process, and you're going to be awesome at it. I'm not going to be awesome at that, and I certainly want to see you do that. But I also want you to understand, and same with Karim Khan, and as we get to the justice, that we all have to narrate. That's a narrative for those 5 powers. That's for Canadians and First Nations. We all have to have that. We all have to have that. My messages are just ping, ping, ping off the hook here. I hate that. I'm sorry, everybody. I got notifications down, but I got messages going for some reason. The thing that worries me is the P5 are definitely some of the most corrupt countries in the world. Well, Sean, here's the thing. They control all the supply chains. They have a vast amount of power on this earth. But the world is still 10 times better than it ever was before the P5. They're not invading countries. Regardless of what people say, when they go into a country, it's because the human rights in the country went so bad. Russia, USA always had it, and checking each other out, and always trying. The P5 always try to get each other and win the world into their corner, right? That's kind of the nature of the beast. That's the best way I can say it. But the reality is, they don't go into countries. They might mess around economically and try to get their first priorities, right? America is bad for that. Whether it's Democrat or Republican, that's the truth. And, I don't know. It's better than any time in world history before that. That's all I know. And if you use them right and you stay away from non-binding agreements, you can actually do real well. One of the smallest countries in the world is a Security Council member right now. They're one of the voted-ins for a limited time, right? And Eritrea, and they are phenomenal. They've backed me up a couple times in presentations. They've answered me, and some of the board and loyal followers have seen that, where they definitely voted in favor of what I was talking about. And they're one of the smallest countries in the world who defeated Canada, many, many other nations to get that seat. Why? Because they have a strong constitution. They follow the binding world laws, and they don't get into the bullshit of non-binding agreements. Check it out. They do well. They're doing really well for a small country, relatively obscure, not high in resources, and they're doing very well. A lot of that's because of their constitutionalism, and also it's because they understand the world laws. They're very well educated, and they keep their people well educated, well learned. That comes from their constitution and their education system, something that is grossly lacking in Canada today. And people who want to run down Joe Biden, I'm just going to throw this in there. He is throwing constitutionalism into education as well as education's rolling back to 3 years old now, pre-kindergarten, and America is going to be taught, and constitutionalism. So I don't see that as radical left. I know Republicans who love it just as much as Democrats. It's a phenomenal thing, and I know a lot of people get upset, but I love Donald Trump. I tell everybody that. You can look. I got an 8-year history. Should have saw my Twitter on Donald Trump. It was very effective tool. I could force, before Kelly Knight Craft, her predecessor, Nikki Haley, had a tremendous following as she does now. I used to be able to force issues for Alberta by using the Trump train and getting Americans to help me on the Trump train and force Nikki Haley as a UNSC member to read my letters, because she's just such a massive following. Who's Dave Bjorkman? Not that she knows me now, but at least she read my letters, so she knows the name and knows I was active on the world stage and in international law. I used to force it that way. The reality is I loved a lot of Donald Trump. I'm more of a Republican kind of guy. History of the Republicans is more for me. That's just me. This isn't me telling you how I'm going to force anything on you. It's just who I am. I'm mostly libertarian Republican. I like that nationalism. I love constitutionalism. I'm a big Richard Nixon fan. I know that doesn't go well with a lot of people, but he was tremendous on the world stage, tremendous on civil rights. Donald Trump, in the end, I think it's because a lot of his administration had abandoned him, the checks and balances that protect presidents when they get elected in the United States. They find out all the rhetoric and bullshit they sell. They can't do any of it. They find out that there's a constitution in place and a system in place, and then they figure out for the first time that there's 50 states with all individual constitutions, and they have serious powers over my governance. And I have to be very, very careful how I do this, because every 2 years is a midterm. I can lose all my House and Senate, rendering me nearly powerless. And it happens to a lot of presidents who try to go too far, and they're not very successful at all. And that happened to Donald Trump. And in the end, when they had left him, too many had left him, he tried to break the Constitution of the United States. I'm not going to speculate. All I know is he did a lot of radical things, way out there things, with his executive power at the end of his term, post-November of the election, that were unbecoming of any president that I've ever seen and read in history, and I watched it live, and it was shocking for me. Fatuma with the ICC, he put sanctions on the prosecutor. Now, they can investigate the P5, but they can't get a judgment against the P5, but that's what Fatuma tried to do, and she got spanked for it. But putting sanctions on her, seizing all her assets, that's the power of the five, everybody. That's what any one of them or all of them can do. And what I'm doing here with this presentation, my plan is to have all five. And it's looking extremely well that they're going to. I just need the Catholic Church now in Canada. And we already have Pope Francis have his press release. Anyone who read that, that mimics everything I talk about. He backs it up. We must turn from colonialism. We must go with the sons and daughters of Canadians and First Nations. What more is there to say, everybody? That pretty much rings true everything I've ever said. Anyway, Sean, I hope that answers the question. I know I rambled a little bit there, but it's more to just... Karen says, very good news. It's something we don't get to hear often enough. Thank you. Well, thank you, Karen, for joining. And, you know, everybody, it's important, right? And he said, the Shermans, your video is dark screen. Light up your picture. Well, the light's on outside now, so it's good. The sensor went off. There's lots of Crown land. The Queen is obsolete. Absolutely, Karen. And that's for all Canadians. It should be. As should the First Nations be settled. And there's no way Canadians can pay, right? We can't pay. And there were agreements and treaties imposed by Britain of the Old World and France of the Old World. And they're toast now. And the First Nations, you have to understand it, they lost the colonial wars. Think of it like a Return of the Jedi thing. People say World War II, World War I. Yeah, but you might also say they were the colonial wars 1, colonial wars too. That's reality, everybody. And colonialism's been abolished now. And unfortunately, not the trees, I'm not dismissing that. I'm just saying we can't look at the world in any kind of eyes of a colonial system anymore, even though Canada runs on it. We can't look at things like that. So First Nations, right across the board, we have to settle with land. That's what we have to do. And I present GDP as that. Like when you talk about lease arrangements that the government has now with foreign interests and stuff. But that requires constitutionalism. That requires First Nations sitting down as an entire peoples. And that means bringing in the greatest world experts from around the world. All of them in every major language. And that means recruiting over the next year many, many Indigenous lawyers so I can get all the languages. All the languages. Because there's no point in doing constitutionalism if it can't be presented in your language. Everybody in Canada. And I'm very happy to say I've got most of them covered, just not First Nations, which First Nations we got to do first. Can't do any of this without First Nations. That's the other thing here. Everything, including this case, is monumental because it's the first time we can do it as, I say, the canoe people, boat people. And I've really enjoyed the East for the First Nations people out East. And I'm learning more about BC now. There's definitely a different knowledge set there that's really been joyful for me inside to see how well learned people really are from the First Nations in the unceded territory. I can't believe it. You know, and I'm just an Alberta boy. I never realized till I got out here, going out to Six Nations and a lot of the folks I've talked to from the First Peoples. It's incredible. It's like, wow, there's so many of you know exactly what's going on. Like, you just didn't have a voice. And not that I have a big one either, but we can do this together. We can save Canada, all Canadians, all First Nations. We can't right all the wrongs, but Canada's so huge. We're not going to let that Crown land stay with the politicians anymore. You deserve your fair settlement. And with real rights to your property, your resources, a vast amount that you get to pick. And then you know what? The rest of us will take the draw and take the 35 acres. And people say, well, why? Well, you know what? You look, when you see all the presentations and what's happened, how we got to where we are, what's been promised by UK when they left. Canada hasn't lived up to any of it. They've lied their face off. Now, that's no one's fault. We were all immigrants at one time. And for First Nations, before you get mad at white people or immigrants, if you choose that, a lot don't, which is kind of wrong too, because they swear the same oath that all of our ancestors at one time or another had to. I didn't, because I'm fortunate or unfortunate, I'm not sure, but we immigrated before Alberta was even a province. So there was no oath of that. It was a territory, Wild West, you know. I don't know what to say about that. Definitely not involved in any slavery or any of the other, but that's history. Had a guy tell me today to stop listening to your lies and listen to Kevin Annette. Asked him to show me where you lied and he couldn't. Just said it was all laughing my ass off. Yeah, thanks, Dean. I get it all the time. I get people who say all kinds of things, and when I ask them to back it up in facts, present something, because I always will, if somebody calls me out on something, I'll say, okay, ... and my publications get better and better. I think the last one was when they were calling me the Communist Party, or they tried to say the Chinese, or they're trying to say the Communist, not the Chinese Communist Party. They said that's common, but that's not legal. It's common because that's how the common law countries write it, but that's not the legal written word. It's the Communist Party of China, CPC. And you know what? The highest institution in the United States of America and UK jointly shared. Joe Biden has got a handle on that one, and it gives me access to the UN in New York. They they gave it to me. They gave me the released, document that is China's constitution, and right there they list right off the hop the Communist Party of China, CPC, in their constitution released by the United States of America. It's real. It's absolute. Can't dismiss it. UK backs it up. It's a real legal document. It's their constitution. So now, who's the liar? Not me, right? Just something like that. And I have more and more and more, and people don't like facts, right? They like to be lied to, and it sucks because we are lied to. There's many mistakes out there, Wikipedia, others, and then I can come with the real facts and show it, but yet it doesn't get amended, right? Trudeau has speed dial in the printing press of money. Yes, Karen, absolutely. Trevor says, hey boss, hope you're winning today. I am, Trevor. I absolutely am winning today. Carolyn Wendy says, you're filing the docs to the UN on the 28th of June, and when will you hear back? Well, thanks for asking that question. Anyone who's been following me on any of my UN publications and what I share, they do it generally right in that session. That's why I picked that session. That day, the 28th, once a year, every session the UNSC has, it's an anniversary of a date of addressment of current on issues, and the 28th, the morning of the 28th, is Children's Genocide, to address children's genocide. So all over the whole world, the UNSC is going to address that. So ours is going in. And they are going to tell everybody, basically, what they are going to do about genocides on children committed in the world today. They will all each give their spiel. All of the UNSC, but the five are absolute, and what each country says. So if China's talking about Canada's Indigenous, if UK talks about it, USA talks about it, or Russia, or they go in, and Syria is talking about, so Russia's going to, and we're going to see what USA, UK, and the rest responses. Canada is in serious trouble here, and I will have to have that presentation in. All we need is one of them to read it, or at least present it, and it's going to be China. China for sure, and likely Russia too, and other UNSC members, and I'll be watching Atria to hear what their comment is. But Canada's going to, I hope anyway. It should be that morning actually. Thank you. Thanks for the question. And Kim replied, I want out of the UN WHO. Well, WHO's not a binding organization, although the USA is going back into it. Medical always has been. What you guys have to understand, Kim, and all Canadians, First Nations if they want to know too, these non-binding organizations, again, it's what your country does with it. This is why you need to know international law, what is binding, what isn't, and then your country, and have a strong constitution. We have to stop blaming the General Assembly for every organization that comes up that's way under the 6 organ tiers. Way under it. Who's survived? They've been vetoed a number of times, but they survive, and it's because it's doctors. Your problem in Canada, everybody, province by province, is the Canadian Medical Association. All your doctors generally are members, every single one. It's really hard to trust, and I can show you that societal lineage where it goes all the way to the UK, and I'm not going to slam Elizabeth II, but she's on that organization, okay? There's a society attached to the nurses through the doctors, and then others, it's wrong. I've wrote about this for years. Nobody seemed to think it was important. Now COVID's out and everyone's screaming about who and this and that, and they still won't go look at the Canadian Medical Association, a vastly wealthy organization in Canada, one of the richest organizations in all of Canada, one of the most powerful. I have asked, years ago I did, for Alberta independence, I wrote tons on this. I told everybody we got to get out. We have to have our own provincial health authorities without any interference of any overlapping Canada-wide group, especially with that tremendous wealth. They're worth as much, I think it was $52 billion last time I checked. Do you know how many doctors are in Canada? Not a whole lot. $52 billion. Think about that, everybody. Think about that. And you're worried about the WHO? I'd be more worried about Canadian Medical Association using whatever they want from WHO and administering it any way they want, because last time I checked, WHO's made a whole bunch of things. They said, hey, don't do this, don't do that. And Canadian Medical Association, most wealthy organization, one of the most powerful organizations in Canada, went the other way. Think about it. Carolyn says, love it. Thank you, man. Thank you. No problem. Bob Jackson says, thanks, Dave. Big thumbs up. Oh, here we go. We got Courtney Curio says, with Bill C-10 passing, do you suspect they'll start censoring you? Kind of off topic, but what's the first thing you're going to do as PM? Okay, well, for one, Facebook, no, this ain't coming down. This is staying. Trudeau can't censor me on Facebook with C-10. If you get caught lying and they can catch you and prove it, yep. So I have to be absolutely, and I already am, I'm a real, I shouldn't use the word anal, but everybody likes to use that word. That's why I use the word. But yeah, I'm pretty good at crossing my T's, dotting my I's, getting things exact and perfect before I do stuff. I don't know, it's maybe a welder thing, or it's just what I do. I make sure I don't fall on my face with stuff. I guess it's how I got, my provincial party done when they said it was impossible. As for what's the first thing I'll do as PM, if elected Prime Minister, everybody, the day I'm elected Prime Minister, the first thing will be immediate press release, because I'll already have all 13 letters, plus the 14th, the Governor General, all Lieutenant Governors in Canada, giving them notice of their dismissal. I will read off each name of each province and territory, as well as the Governor General of Canada, that you are getting, now that I'm elected Prime Minister, in 30 days when I ascend, meaning when I open Parliament and I hold the mace and I get sworn in, you will all be terminated upon that day. This is your 30 days notice, according to the Constitution of Canada, at which time I will appoint loyal to the people only 13 provinces and territory lieutenant governors, as well as the Governor General of Canada, and they will all be loyal to you, the people, swearing an oath to the crown, which will be to me. I will hold that crown, and I will state that I will be destroying the crown upon that day, and that the new Governor General, not only do they swear that crown oath, they will swear live in front of all of you on that day. The Governor General and the 13 Lieutenant Governors of the province will swear that they will not ascend an act or bill in any legislature or province, right, in any province or territory, as well as the federal parliament, until all of you get your constitutional conventions by the greatest experts in the world. And each and every MP and MLA will not be able to open parliament or conduct anything. There will be no opposition, nothing. I will not shut down government. I will not do any kind of authoritarian rulings or anything. Nothing will function. Everything will function as normal, except for the MPs and MLAs of the federal government and all provinces and territories. Their job, because they get a paycheck from all of you, will be to deliver you all your constitutional conventions by the greatest minds in the world today. We will have hundreds of them. In town halls, that will be the job of the MPs and MLAs. There is nothing they can do about it. I will hold entirely the Supreme Court of Canada, the superior courts of every province and territory, through, again, Lieutenant Governor and Governor General of Canada. We will hold all that, and there's not anything any legal team can do, because the case won't be heard. And we will wait patiently. If the lawyers are really, really worried about things, they can join in with the constitutional conventions, because the reality is it will be a $140 million cost to the taxpayers, which, these MPs and MLAs should go out there and get the job done from every party. From every party. They should go turn around and get that job done for all of you. That's what I will do on the day I'm elected, if I'm elected Prime Minister. Thank you. We will change Canada forever. Yeah, how to find you if you're censored. Carolyn, I'm not going to be censored, but if I was, I would just fire up on YouTube. I'm always on Twitter. I think it's Dave Bjorkman 1 on Twitter. And YouTube, it's just Dave Bjorkman. So I haven't been doing too much with YouTube, which I have some pretty awesome videos there, but just kind of a different line of things. And I got a big email list, but I won't be censored. I don't lie. I don't lie. I know the Canadian government's angry at me. They can kick me out of a lot of stuff, but they can't make Facebook break the law, so to speak. Like, Facebook has its own cast of characters, which I do want a bunch of those experts. I've been trying all kinds of kind of semi-mischievous ways on Facebook to get put before his board of experts, because there's about 6 of them that he paid for. I don't know why his name's not coming to me, the guy who owns Facebook, but he paid for quite the cast, and there's about 4 experts there I want on my stuff, and I'd like to meet them, and I don't know how to get to them. I think, because you gotta, he's a billionaire, man. They're not going to talk to me. But if I could get to them, I could show them all this stuff and say, hey, you guys want to come on board with what we're doing in Canada? And there's 4 I would like. 4 that he's paid probably a lot of money to run the Facebook courts or whatever. But I'd sure like to have 4 of those with me for constitutionalism, for sure. He paid the money. Ian says, I can tell you speak from the heart. Thanks, Ian. You're incredible, man. I enjoy your commentary. You remind me of Mark O'Reilly, who's been with me a long time. Okay, I often have negative repercussions for sharing Dave's posts. I don't get notifications as live posts. Well, Facebook, the thing is because I have a max friend list, I'm not a Facebook page here. I'm sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat. I got a Facebook page too, which I have to migrate everybody to. I gotta convince you guys to all join my Facebook page. Dave Bjorkman, I should share a link to that. I'm still learning how to run that. And that way I can get people to moderate it for me too, and I can just pound content there. But I don't know, I'm old school. I like the feeling of being live, being accountable to you all, and answer each question as you have to answer them. But I'm sorry you get repercussions, Brenda. I know there's so many people, and I know Alberta politics right now. I know they're going through a whopper right now. They're going through everything I told them they go through, one of the major parties, and now they're all coming to me, and I'm getting messaged about it, but I can't get involved. I have this federal thing right now. I'm just so tied down. It's so much work, and I am tired these last couple weeks, but it's like that. You go, and I go pretty hard. I'm a hard-working guy, and I get through it, but I'm sorry about the repercussions. People don't want to face the truth. They will fight it and fight it and fight it. And then when they happen upon it, when it comes, like just last week there, one of the guys who hasn't followed me for 3 years, he kind of gave it to me. He came back. The light was hit, and he realized Dave didn't lie then, and now it's reality now, and he came back. You didn't lie, man. I thought you were a bullshitter, right? Thought you were full of shit, and then it was Eureka, right? I love that. That always makes me feel good. Now he's just sharing away. He's a sharer, and people come and go, and it's okay. People need to see for themselves, or follow what's popular, or follow what people like to narrate until it falls flat, and then they come back and, oh geez, and I'm trying. I think this ICC thing will be monumental, and it's a chance. I am upset that I won't be with the 3 Canadian universities. I thought that would have been perfect timing in 2022. That would have propelled me, but maybe this ICC thing will too. I don't know what the media's going to do, but I know Facebook isn't going to put me down. As long as I keep telling the truth, Facebook ain't going to shut me down, no matter how much negative I get. Facebook will keep me around. They won't. Their experts won't let the Canadian government tear me down as long as I tell the truth. Okay, Sterling says if CCP gets elected in and fires the Governor General and all Lieutenant Governors, what checks will be in place to prevent premiers from running rogue provinces? They can't. Yeah. We won't have Lieutenant Governors keeping them in check. Premiers can't run rogue. They can't do anything because premiers and their appointments and all that, without Lieutenant Governor, they can't ascend any act or bill. Remember, you elect legislators. That's why they call it the legislature of any province or territory. Legislators. They can't legislate. It means they can't do their job. They need the Governor General, even if they vote and they do whatever. Also, who opens up Parliament? Go look at the definition of Lieutenant Governor. And this is the Constitution of Canada, the Crown Power. Everybody, I only want a minority government. I don't need a majority. I don't need any of that. I'm giving all the power to you people. Nobody has ever put up a platform where I'm going to get elected to destroy the crown and give all my power to the people. You'd be crazy to do that. I guess I'm crazy. It's not crazy. It's a smart way. The other side of a revolution is evolution. I thought this is a smart way to beat all that crap, to not be the bad guys, to give the power to the people, usurp the corruptors. And because nobody's strong enough to resist, because you get filthily rich, you instantly become a first-class citizen. One of my MLA candidates, Joe Hankins, and I'm trying to remember, he ran in what's the name of the riding? It's Eastwood. It's where the Edmonton Eskimos play football. It's right by the stadium there, off Stadium Road. But NDP got their woman elected instant, and she was poor, just like Joe and myself, right? Like, not dirt poor, but just a third-class citizen. She wasn't well-dressed, all that. Immediately, she was elected for Eastwood, a relatively poor community in Edmonton. And instantly, she won a lottery with the party and all that. They put her into first-class status, right? That nobody, once they're there, they get the makeover, all that, and the glamour, the power. Nobody ever goes back. Same with getting a political party registered. Once you're leader, nobody ever gives it up. Nobody, they fight tooth and nail for. We're seeing that in parties right now. It goes right to their head. It's built in our party system. It's what Canada is. It's a colonial crown power that was to be destroyed. It absolutely corrupts all. It's like a Lord of the Rings thing. And I guess I'm the hobbit that's able to resist the ring, for a time being, I suppose. Like I said, everybody, I only need 30 days, and I'm okay with just a life. I just want to leave this world knowing my girls and my grandkids will be safe, that they'll have generations to look forward to, and I can rest easy knowing that they're protected and they have a shot in this world, and everybody who comes and born will have a shot in this world, a fair equal share, regardless of race, sex, creed, color, all of it, and all that. But to do that, there are outstanding things that have to be addressed, and it takes the First Nations and Canadians together. It starts with them and it ends with them. That's the truth. That's the truth. So I hope that answered your question, Sterling. Joseph, as long as we keep the healthcare system the way it is, or even revamp it, I support you. And also leave the ODSO alone. ODSO, I'm not sure what... Usually I'm the guy who always does acronyms, but I don't know what ODSO alone. Old age security, I think. Is it heavily needed for certain people who need it? I hope it's old age security. Or disability. Maybe it's disability. All those things will stay. Everybody... they always said I'm a guy who comes up with left and right platforms. I'm a money's guy. It's not... healthcare will never deteriorate in Canada. I think the problem is that what's happening is that the standard of living's rising so high, and the cost of living's rising so high, and the standard living is falling or remaining the same Either way, it doesn't matter. It's all bad. It's all bad. And the politicians don't care because they're wealthy millionaires, right? You get to a certain wealth level, you can absorb a lot. A loaf of bread costing $20 is not really a big problem if you're worth $13 million. You're still going to eat well. You're still going to have a nice place. It's just a matter of, are you and the kids flying to Hawaii for Christmas this year? Or, or is summer break going to be in Tahiti? You're going to have to pick one this year. You know what I mean? Or are you going to have, you're going to have to sell a Lamborghini and scale down to 6 Porsches? I mean, it's silly, right? But when you're an average citizen, that can destroy you. Even $1 more a loaf of bread in relation to all food products, or utilities going up 30-40%, or rent costs going up 30-40%, that will destroy a heck of a lot of Canadians. And we're going into that. Right now they're printing money and then they're paying on the debt with that, but it's not real. And, I hate to say it, Harper did it too. He was the one who started it. That goes back to Rocco Galati. Like, I'm an economics guy. That's what I graduated from, and I've done so many detailed posts, everybody, and it's not to slam people, but it's about truth, right? So no, all those things can stay in place. It's how you run your economy properly. Primary sector is what supports the public sector, and you could have many more services. I know Ralph Klein firsthand proved this. He had more nurses hired by the time he finished than he had when he started, even though there was a cut in between there when they went belly up, but he revamped. And that's just a premier fighting the federal government, and they destroyed him. Stephen Harper destroyed Ralph Klein. And conservatives watching, when you get all parties on here, conservatives watching from the province of Alberta at that time, you know what I say is true. You know that it was Harper that destroyed Ralph. He tried for many years. He came up with Firewall, which a lot of that same mentality Harper, which led us to a radical country that was the second worst recorded prime minister in the history of Canada. Fact and official. Justin Trudeau is officially the worst now, second being Stephen Harper, and third place being Pierre Elliott Trudeau, by the numbers. That's true, everybody. Can you explain your last name? What's the nationality? I expected your name to be Running Bullfeather Chief or something. Sandy, I'm a white guy. I'm born and raised in Alberta. I'm 5th generation. My girls are 6th. It's Swedish. Bjorkman is Birchman from Berkshire. We like a lot of Bjorkland, Bjorkson, Bjork rub. It goes on and on. There was a Viking invasion of France. 10 something. I'd have to look in my books on that one. I did a write-up about this years ago because it's my personal family tree history. But the Norwegian king, he was a big man. He invaded France and he went through with only 2,000 men, and they clobbered France for over a year, raping, pillaging, plundering, taking money. This isn't a brag story, it's just real history. And the French king was only 5'2", and the Viking king of Norway with these Bjorks, it was Bjork and Bjorn, and there was a bunch of those. And all those Viking warriors of those families that were in that 2,000, what had happened, the king had lost the queen to the Viking king. He was a little man, he ran away. He got all his gold together. They went around and they paid back home in Norway. They paid the Vikings at home so that when the king tried to return and all those families, they were kicked out. There was nowhere to return to. All families were gone. So they went to Sweden. We became Swedish. And of course, not just Swedish, but from there we went around the world because we're not Norwegians anymore. And we had to buy our names. So the more money you spent, right, to make Bjork sound more Western, there was a man, a rub, a son. It should be Bjorkson, right? That's the best version of it. that's who had the most money, and the others got a little bad end of the stick. I didn't do too bad. Bjorkman's not too bad. Bjorkman's okay. There's a few bucks there, I guess. That's the history of Bjork. That's my roots on my father's side. Yeah, Trevor Core, this is an important one. I'm tired for paying for stuff that happened before I was born. I get that, Canadians, and you have to stop right now. This ICC is not the rest of the bullshit in the world. And absolutely Canada. Ontario human rights administered by the government of Canada, that's what it is. A bullshit human rights court. So that Canada's politicians don't have to be accountable and you, the taxpayers, have to pay. You can go back, NDP, Liberal, Conservative, they've all fleeced you in atrocity and never actually been held account. The court ICJ, which is one of the 6 organs for the General Assembly, if it's a government charged, they can voluntarily go there, but if they don't want to, they don't have to. So they're never accountable. The ICC is the court of last line of defense gifted by the UNSC 5 so that exact thing you talk about, I'm tired of paying for stuff that happened before I was born or not administered by me. How's that for better words? Or nothing to do with me, I didn't do it. I was born here too. How should I be held accountable? You shouldn't be. And I understand First Nations. Canadians don't know the whole story. I get that. I get both sides of it. But First Nations understand that. Canadians understand that. Look what's happened to those people. You don't even know, for Treaty Indians, just how very much little they have. Imagine if I put a fence around any small town in Canada and I said there will be nothing. You can't go to work anywhere else. Find your living right here in a town. And it's all there's some stores, but well, how do we export, import? And I say, all you all get is $255 a month. Figure it out. Your mayor will disperse each of your funds. How long until you're just like a reserve? How long? How long? And only reserves that happen to have resources that the government allows them to let somebody negotiate through, and then they get some kind of small portion kickback, do a little bit better. And some can do extremely well, like in the oil sands if it reserves only 100 people. I know one. But other than that, a tremendous amount, especially high populations, are put in the most extreme, worst human rights violations the world's ever seen. And only for a little bit of time here, you guys. We're talking 1876, few after, but pretty sick stuff, man. That's a long time to oppress the peoples like that. I'm not saying it's Canadians' fault, they just don't know any better. But it's absolutely the government's fault. And this goes right back into the ICC, that it is the court that will hand down true justice, not judgments of not guilty. This is justice, real justice. International Criminal Court hands out justice. That could cost people their lives. Could absolutely force them into prison. Doesn't matter who you are, what color, race, creed, nationality. If you participated in a gross genocide, you will at least spend time in a foreign prison, regardless of your status, race, creed, color, how much wealth you have. And everybody, understand this. I'm going to say it again one more time here, everybody. Understand that ICC does the criminal justice, real justice. And it will be done. This case goes through, as however long that takes. For Germany, it's still, from that time all the way to just last November was the last conviction. They keep going. This will keep going as they learn new things, as First Nations discover stuff, as Canadians discover stuff. More and more will go down as the decades roll on. This will be forever. But there will be no taxpayer paying for all that. What will happen is, because every politician will become an instant chicken shit, which they should be, you're running in full autocracy, outlawed, ruled illegal. You should be scared, because now, if that doesn't light a fire under your ass to absolutely design constitutionalism and give these founding principles to the people, we the people, then you deserve what you get. And if it can happen this time, it'll happen again. And I think it will scare a lot of politicians scared straight who are not tied to the genocide. Then there's all the organizations. And then you, as we the people, let's just say, for example, a famous alive politician today who's worth maybe a couple $2 billion. Let's just say there's one like that I know of who could be tied to that. And then they have all their money through the colonialism. They participate in all that. What should happen to their estate? That'll be up to you, Canadians. Because the ICC will take them away and put them in jail. They've got a criminal conviction. How easy is it now when someone's in prison, criminally convicted in a world court, highest court in the entire world, and they're physically thrown in a prison or maybe even put to death? What happens to that estate, the proceeds of genocide? Well, that's up to all of you. I think we all know that since they rape Canadians and Indigenous even more, and these families, I think that that's who should pay. I don't think taxpayers should pay. Not at all. Not one penny. But that will be up to all of you. And the politicians will gravitate to that, regardless of my party or what happens. This case is so very, very important for everything in Canada going forward, for all First Nations and Canadian citizens. It's the first time we may get the people's power after all, just like that, and highlight the truth. Hope that helps, Trevor. Awesome, thanks, Dave. Kim says, KJ Johnson, is there a way to change what they did with your paper and academic backing after this is done, so it is out there and you can get back on track? You know what, KJ? No, the ICC is not everybody. The ICC only deals with gross genocides, especially stuff like children and women. The grossest, worst things in the world. What's happened to the First Nations is all they're going to deal with. They could care less about my paper. I will write a book, I guess. I could do that. I've written on independence. I haven't even published them, but I know somebody who wants me to, and I know somebody who wants to see that through their organization, and actually a couple, and I haven't ever done it yet because I'm always busy. Politics is real busy. All of you keep me really busy right now, and I think when my work is done, then it's kind of like, hey, I can sit back maybe, and maybe it's time to write a book. And this paper, maybe I'll get an opportunity. The problem is that the law of sovereignty, this is a world-binding law. Foreign governments don't want me to write about Canada because it's like they're interfering with Canada. But myself as a Canadian citizen writing to my universities, which it looks like I'm generally banned from all of them, which is sad because I'm not banned on the greatest universities of the world. Like, how is that even possible? America's so kind to me. All the universities, Democrat or Republican, whichever, they've all been very kind to me. All of them. UK, extremely kind. Russia, extremely kind. Not even China. China's let me dabble in there. That's communist, like, what the hell's going on here, man? What the hell's going on? Well, we know. It's just the government will do whatever it can to survive, I guess. Oh, Allison Spears says, when will you be back in Alberta? Little Birdie says, I'm back, Canada Day weekend. But you guys, I'm spending 2 days solid with my girls, and we have specific plans. I'm keeping it kind of tight under wraps because I got to deliver for my girls, and they miss me truly very much. There's a couple days there, a total of 5 days. I do have some business to do there with some law firms on other political stuff, and yes, I'll see the party, and then there'll be a day for all of you. But I won't be driving because my truck will stay here. I'll be flying, so Canada Day and for a few days after. How will the P5 decision be posted? on the UN website. But as far as it's what they state, and whatever they state will be ironed out officially. Like that will be. I'll present it for all of you. Don't worry, and it'll be generally the UNSC website, right? I'll pull that for you all, and you'll get to see them live that day of. But it'll probably be after the day. I mean, I'll have to work that day too, so I'll be handing that in. And then I'll be. You guys might know before me or what's said. How are we supposed to move forward as a country of Canadians when we keep dividing people by racial class? Well, we're not. See, that's the problem too, and thanks for that too, Trevor. Everybody keeps trying to do this First Nations and everybody else divide. It absolutely is everybody else, including brown, black, and this is really important. I did a whole video on this. Everybody who immigrates to Canada, if you're from Africa and you're black, right, and you're trying to claim racism, I gave shit about this. You swore that oath, and you're perpetuating the genocide no different than a white person here 5 generations against the indigenous people. So's an East Indian brown man from India, Pakistan. We can go through all of them. We can go through Muslim countries. We can go through China, Asia, yellow peoples. It doesn't matter. You come here, you swear that oath, you go with the system, you're helping perpetuate a genocide. The Crown land sits there, federal, provincial, and First Nations, the pure red their blood, are in absolute squalor. Some people don't even have clean drinking water and $250 a month. You can't live on that. They're not allowed the resources. They're not allowed to grow. They're not allowed to have the horse and plow. That's how bad Canada is. If I did that to any of you, and I did that to you for more than 100 years, I guarantee you the many Canadians wouldn't even be around today. You couldn't. It's not possible. It's amazing that those people have made it as far as they have, and they're still defiant. Really. That's the truth. Sorry, guys. We have a serious, massive genocide. The world's on this, man. The P5 are taking it. They don't take... Look at the last cases. Africa, massive genocides. Raping little children, 3 years old, because it's going to cure you of AIDS. Military regimes going through doing that stuff. Like, man. Because they need a virgin and they're grabbing 3-year-old girls. That's genocide, man. We're in that caliber, everybody. I know Canadians don't want to believe this. We are more than there. There are buried children under churches all over Canada. I'll put it to you this way. Remember the COVID statistics? It's going to be a pandemic. They expect a 3 to 5% mortality rate. Are you ready for this? Here's a great real stat for you. If anyone's ever going to understand this, that was ruled a global pandemic on those kind of numbers which never materialized. Ready for this? Imagine if I said, we're going to round up all your children and put them in residential schools, and there's going to be a 4 to 5% mortality rate. 4 to 6% mortality rate. And I said, you have to send your kids. I don't give you a choice. In fact, we have police. Just know that 4 to 6% of your children are never going to come home. And if you resist me, I'm going to have you arrested and forcibly take the children. That was residential schools through its lifetime. Nobody told them that 4 to 6% of their children were going to die. Do you understand what I'm saying now? How bad of a genocide this is? School, forced schooling, and you're going to have a 4 to 6% mortality rate because the kids are going to be murdered? It's disgusting, man. It's disgusting. Of course the P5 have to get involved. And of course there's going to be justice against all the Canadian politicians involved, which are basically every political party we have. Mainstream, absolutely. Rich in history, provincial, territorially, and Canadian. And people are minimizing this. I'm telling you, this is my work for 4 years. They're fucked. Pardon my language, but they're fucked. move forward on that, I guess. It's my best explanation. People aren't really getting it, you know, and it's good. It's good to ask questions. I hate to use those words, but this is reality. You use words that represent what's going to happen. People might lose their lives here. Executed. That's how serious that is. Look what they've done in Africa. Look what happens to people. Go check out the ICC. If there's an election, will your party be on the ballot? Anne-Marie says. If there is a snap election, no, we will not be on the ballot, and there's not going to be a snap election. That's just more politicians getting you to give your donations. Now, it is possible. It is possible Trudeau might want to go for a majority, but I'm going to tell you something, everybody. Look at the statistics of Canada and how many times early elections were called. Not very often at all. Very rare. Very rare. Harper was in the same situation as Trudeau. He never called an election. Trudeau ran through his whole last term. Mind you, in a majority. The other's a minority, but I don't see him calling an election. I just don't see it. I don't see NDP wanting an election either. Bob Jackson says that will be cheap compared to what we have paid. Absolutely, yes, sir. Zuckerberg. Oh, yeah, Mark Zuckerberg. Yes, Mark Zuckerberg is bought and paid for some terrific experts that don't come cheap, and I can't get them, and I love to meet them. And I try little Facebook things, not to get myself in too much trouble, but I use music. So when you see me pumping out my music, and I get Warner Brothers, and then I try to get, I have a case in with Mark Zuckerberg that I've appealed to that board with Warner Music, which is Warner Brothers. So they're real pissed at me. And yeah, I mean, and it might have something to do with my videos. You guys can't click on them and go straight to them. I don't know. It could be that too, because I've been doing a lot of that. Trying to force these 4 experts in an audience and watch one particular video addressed to them. Because I want them. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Zuckerberg. Yeah. So it's my little thing for Facebook to force them to watch one video. Dave, the only dude who makes me feel Canadian. I'm already on your page. I'll moderate. All right, thank you, Joseph Robinson. There's lots of people who want to do that. That would be good for me, and it'd be good to get everybody transitioned over there. How about union rights to strike? Would you allow that back into the labor law and collective bargaining? Okay, labor rights are provincial, right? But however, there is freedom of association, which the Canadian government and provincial governments don't want to tell all Canadians. Freedom of association is absolutely for religion, and it's also for unions. So absolutely on that, it's already one of our rights. It should always be a right. It's also a human right. And yes, full democracy of unions. The only thing I'm going to say to the Liberals is everybody can go back to 1996. Even right now in this government, this is what's bad about the Conservatives. And Liberals, at least the 1996 Liberals, had a democratic audit done of the unions. You can't let unions be undemocratic. The right to strike is a democratic right. But what about when the union members vote for a strike and the unions shoot them down anyway? Or what if the unions say, no, we don't like the contract, or we don't like what's being offered, and we say no, and then the union signs it anyway, right? There's two sides of this. We can't have any more autocracy, and that includes unions. I would like to see, and this is going to be unpopular for me in my world right now, but I would like to see this international system, which is exactly like First Nations. When you look at unions, they've designed them now exactly like the Indian Act. That's what they do. So I would like to see the internationals change to an American style, and unions enshrined, and locals run things. The people who work in the industry, who live there, work there, have the power to say, and unions have to be democratic. Of course, freedom of association will go. I'd never take that away from the unions or religion. I wouldn't. Those are enshrined rights. You can't take them away. It's wrong. And you need checks and balances against foreign companies too. This isn't for the small business or the small domestic, but you know what? Large corporations and the big multinationals, sick the unions on them. That's what they're for. Let the local people of local areas organize their unions, run their unions, and, you know, put the protections in place. And if they want to do that, they do it. That actually protects small business too, right? People don't know this stuff, but it's true. Orlando Lapalgio says, if you need a candidate for constituency of Brandon, Manitoba, I'll do it. Well, right on, Rolando. What we're going to have to do federally is their EDAs. We got to get EDAs set up first. That's the next step after I get registration. That's a big process, 338. But yes, sir, you guys all stay in touch, stay on with it, and we'll go through that absolutely. Joseph says, love to help out. London, Ontario here. Awesome. Michael Gidon says, Caesar. Yeah. I would like to drink one, but I don't want to be a Caesar. Only to make sure you guys all get constitutionalism. That's the only way I'm going to do that. If this is bullshit, it's the best ever heard, but I know it isn't, so just keep bullshit. No, I'm not bullshitting, Bob. Never. No way, man. If it was, Facebook will take you down. How come that's never happened to me? And you know, if you thought it was, like, look at Kelly Knight Craft. That was a UNSC rep for United States of America under Donald Trump's presidency. We're friends, man. We're personal friends. She follows me on Twitter. We're friends on Facebook, too. And I can even tag her. So, we're friends, man. It's real. If CCP only gets a minority government, what would stop the other parties from joining together to usurp the minority government like they did in BC? Sterling, I am going to use full power of the Crown to dismiss the Governor General and Lieutenant Governors. You can't even open up a legislature or parliament. They can't even do anything. They couldn't even do that. You need to have an open parliament or an open legislature. Nobody can usurp nothing. And then think of all you people waiting for your constitutional conventions, which our party will provide. The Governor Generals and Lieutenant Governors are going to do that anyway. And the government's not going to shut down. The legislatures and the parliamentarians are going to be shut down. And then they're getting a free paycheck every month. Because like I said, the government don't shut down. So we're paying them to do sweet diddly do. No, you people will be saying, where's my MP? Where's all the MLAs? Because they're all supposed to organize this. Where are they? Where's my constitutional conventions? There's experts here. How come the MLA and MP aren't here? How long until you guys are with pitchforks at their door, knowing they're collecting a paycheck, they're not doing any job at all, and they're not helping you do your constitutional conventions? NDP, Liberal, Conservative, won't matter, Green Party, you get your ass out there and you give these people what's been promised them by the Crown you swore to. Now you get your ass out there and get to work, and if you don't, it's going to be the people coming to you. But even if they don't, and they want to play pissy pants, and that's all they can do at that point, because the legislature won't be open, the parliament won't be open, nowhere. It won't be. There won't be any political business going on. The only business is you're getting paid, go back to your constituents, start organizing your town halls, if you know it's good for you. It's your community, you got elected to it, right? You're the best rep. Well, we got the Crown. Now get them their constitutional conventions. Here's the outline, but we'll still deliver it even if the MP and MLAs won't. That's the beautiful part. They can't do anything without a Lieutenant Governor and a Governor General. That's the Constitution of Canada. Go look up those terms, everybody. You'll find I've mastered the domestic political science of Canada. I've mastered the law of Canada, the Constitution of Canada. I've mastered international law. You're 150. I can find particularly Russia and China are opening up from where they once were. Now the Canadian government wants to take us where China and Russia moved from. Absolutely, Lyndon. That is well said. I love that. There had to be... Yeah, that's true. And Canada is worse than them. And it's kind of creative, right? Do you know there was a time Russia believed they were some wealthy country as the Soviet Union as they were going down? When they were the USSR, they believed somehow, and even to this day, Russians and Americans believe each other is more autocratic. And they think Canada isn't. Most Americans believe Russia's autocratic. Most Russians believe USA's most autocratic. Both of them think Canada's pretty good. 30% of Canadians think Canada's the most autocratic. So we're waking people up. Tina says, thank you so much, Dave. I truly hope Canadians start to wake up. Very interesting, Dave. Thank you. Will the CCP be on if Trudeau calls one? No, I don't think he will. No, we won't be. If there's a snap election, we won't be. So you're saving Trudeau's one first and someplace, and we need a new law, no turtles in politics. Yes, sir. That's what you guys will do. You guys, in constitutionalism, you can limit all politicians. It's not about Trudeau. Trudeau's just a highlight of this broken system. If we do constitutionalism right, if you get the best experts, all Canadians, from all walks, left, right, whatever you want to call yourself from your various parties, when the rollout happens by the best experts in the world, legal professionals and all these town halls, I am more than confident that people of Canada and First Nations will make all the right decisions when shown history absolute of every one of these things as you roll out your ideas and concepts, and they back it up in history for you and tell you in real legal history what happened. These are people who studied this stuff their entire life, doctorates of it. They'll just love it. And they'll love taking a sabbatical and getting paid to do this for a 6-month period. They would love it. You know, and think about it. We can reach every community. It's that easy. You know, on the big screen, whatever it's needed, we'll get it done. It's so... We've already did some dry runs, by the way, in Canada. I did one in Ontario with... Ottawa, with a world expert on provincial constitutions. It was so well received. That was just a taste. 140 million. All Canada, all provinces and territories. Just 2 million times better than how many referendums? And you know what? Cost of a referendum is about $10 million. Just one. And we're going to do hundreds, basically, in a 6-month period for 140 million. Huge savings, making Canada the best country in the world. That's reality. Sandy says First Nations need justice. Yes, they do. And so does every Canadian. That's truth. That's truth, right from the heart. Yeah, baby, yeah. That's right, Scott. Delvin says, thanks for everything, boss. You betcha. Delvin's been with me a long time. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate your knowledge and your straightforward, no BS approach. I learned something new today. Yeah, that's the way. I love it when everybody learns. I learn something new each and every day. Wait, what? Indians can't grow food? BS. They can't grow in a farm commercial setting or any kind of real farm in a lot of areas of Canada, you guys. That's fact. That's fact. Not allowed. Not allowed. Not even allowed the resources, you guys. Same with Canadians too, but the government gets them. But the Canadians get the money for it. Yes, been screaming genocide for a year. You betcha, Marina. Dave, with China wanting an investigation into crimes against Indigenous people in Canada, do we have a good odds that the ICC will do a thorough investigation? Absolutely, they always do. But this is the part, you guys. ICC must follow a P5 narrative. I'm the master of that. I bring that. Lawyers don't understand this. They clearly prove that, the 12 lawyers. That's why I came forward, because I've been working on this. Oh, with the P5, I went backwards. I went to the top. I'm rolling the ball down the hill. lawyers are trying to go up the hill, and I get that. They go by court systems. This is not like any court system any Canadian lawyer could ever understand, because the court isn't the system. Yeah, there's judges there. They're like Canadian judges. It's really good. The court really matches. The problem is the ruling from that court goes to the P5. If the P5 don't like how it's been designed, or they screw up in a narrative that crosses over the P5's interests, treaties, or laws, it's going to go in the garbage. Vatican being attached as a part of the prosecution automatically puts it all in the garbage. Automatically. China will put it in the garbage too. It only takes one anyway. But if one says no, it goes in the garbage, it goes in the garbage. We get no case, no justice, even with a case decided, an investigation done. It's a two-part system. The judge, jury, and executioner are the P5. That's China, USA, Russia, UK, France. I can't compromise the 5. That's the hill rolling down from the top. The ball rolling down the hill from the top. I start with the P5. I've been on the P5 for 4 straight years. ICC, 2 years. 2 years. I know them both, but I know the P5 has to absolutely be carried through the entirety of the case and never compromised. Not one of them. Not one of them. So you must know China, you must know UK, you must know France, you must know USA, and you must know Russia. I think I've got that ironed right out. I think I have the narrative for that we'll see this successfully done, and the greatest form of justice we could ever see, and end colonialism forever, freeing the First Peoples and all Canadians. And everybody will truly see a life of absolute wealth, as Canada should be. And you will have the ability to hold your politicians to account. Constitutionalism will reign in, because politicians will be terrified post-ICC if we do it right. Thank you. Great question. Run to the hills. Yes, sir. Let's get the politicians running to the hills. Groups or something there, permalink. I'll have to check that out later. What about the Canadian Armed Forces? They follow suit with the government under genocide? Or how does that work for them? Canadian Forces, they follow suit with the government under the genocide? No, Canadian Armed Forces and RCMP, unless there's generals implicated when we start going, if you find military overlap, RCMP grabbed children, forced the genocide, and gave orders, knowing there are human rights violations, and they're in government upper level, they'll be prosecuted too. That's truthful. Military, RCMP, they overlap, yeah. Yeah, RCMP, more than likely, yep. Thanks, Dalvin. Okay, Kirk says, okay, but I've paid taxes for 3 generations. Can I get paid 2 now and stop busting my ass every day? Nobody in my family persecuted Indians. I don't know where you think that it's been on equal payment, and you're thinking that some get and some don't. I can tell you, I don't know anyone put in certain reserve situations that would trade that off for anything, and all because they're resisting. Like, it's wrong, and it doesn't justify murdering somebody's children, forcibly grabbing them. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked when the absolute details come out and what's known. And I think the government's been very good, like they are with Canadians, making them divided. They'd be being even better at committing the genocide while dividing Canadians from the First Peoples. So there's a lot of white people need to know, Kirk, and I hope you stick around and watch this going forward, because just because some First Nations come out good, like I said, largest private property owners in North America are USA, Canada, private property owners are the Métis Nation in Alberta, just the province of Alberta, largest private property owners in USA and Canada combined. Just one. And then I dare you to go down to the blood reserve down south, down southern Alberta. Have a look at that mighty population and the hard times. I don't think any Canadian would ever want to be forced in a situation like that. Just saying. FB or FBCCP page. Just follow me there. It's a page you follow. But my friends list is filled right now, KJ. This is a personal FB, and I only have 5,000 friends. When people leave, I just kind of add. There's a lot of people. I got over 900, I think now, friend requests on hold on my 5,000. And that's how I'm trying to transfer everybody to the page, eh? Pages are better because you can get way higher, but I do like the personality of a real Facebook. I still like it. But I need the page to take over. No problem, Mika says, thanks, appreciate you for answering my question. Much love from a scaffold brother. Thank you. Still interested in a membership? Absolutely great. And everybody get a membership. If I can meet you in Ontario, I will, but this ICC is taking me for the next... We'll see what next week brings, everybody, and I'll get back on the punch. Perfect. Live in St. Catharines, Nigeria. Niagara. I gotta go. There's some things I want to see in St. Catharines, too. I think I will later, KJ. I'll go through the 35 later, but tonight it's getting late, guys. It's already 1 minute to 11. I'm just looking to see if there's... Let's talk vaccines. Did you get one? If you did, my respect for you is a bit less. I did, Kirk. I got a vaccine. I'm going to get the second vaccine, then a COVID negative test so that I can go through First Nations, do several travel. Atlantic provinces have restrictions for me on the ferry. I'm not Maxime Bernier. I'm not a Privy Council member. One of our loyal party members got arrested in Ontario, handing out flyers and not following stuff. He spent a week in prison, not like Maxime Bernier, and he actually pled guilty in front of the judge. So, unlike Maxime Bernier, out of provincers, in a lot of places, will get arrested, will be forced into isolation, and it happened to one of our founding members. But we're all third-class citizens, so, you know, I don't know, somehow magically Maxime Bernier was able to walk out of Manitoba, fly out of Manitoba with no lockdown, no isolation mandatory ordered, even though that was ordered, and he got out of prison within hours. So, like I said, I'm just a third-class citizen. I worked my way across Canada. I worked on the nukes, took a big dose of radiation. Nobody seemed to care about that, even though the cells in my body took mass more damage than thousands of vaccines ever could, even with all their toxic additions. But that's the price you pay. You roll the dice. I needed to get essential worker status. I took that. It got me into Ontario, and now I need to move beyond. I got to finish the provinces. I still need Quebec, which that is open, but to get out to the Atlantic provinces, they will mandate a lockdown on me. I got Alberta plates. I don't. They've already said that. They stated that. And you know what? I don't have the money for a lawyer, the resources for all that, and I don't feel comfortable really trusting strangers or trying to sneak my way in or sneak across. I got a job, I got to work, I got to make money. I earn, I don't suck off the taxpayer's tit. I'm a taxpayer, you know. Best I can do. People can't accept that. I say it's my body, my choice. I make lots of bad choices for my body. I hope I make it through. I think I will. I haven't had any ill effects. I'm going to do the vaccine too just as soon as I can and continue on the mission of getting CPC signed up. Go Dave, go. I filled out mine. Okay, sounds good. Oh my God, could you just stop with the vaccine stuff? His choice. Yeah. St. Catherine's Museum has an Indigenous swing. Oh, I'll have to check that out. Leave Dave alone about his vax. Oh my God, Jill, stop with the vaccine stuff. His choice. All good, everybody. I think that was a good one. Sunday, I'm going to do this, and we're going to get into Indigenous First Nations and keep working on this. Every Sunday, 7 p.m., I'm going to do a show. And, yeah, we're going to go into more stuff, and it's all going to be Q&A. I want to do this tonight because it's ICC week in the Catholic Church. It's huge. This is going to be huge. It's going to explode, everybody. And whether I go forward with it or not, it's that the case goes forward. If they want to put lawyers in there and the firms that signed on with me, great. If they don't want to, I don't care. I just want the truth there and honor the P5. Do it right. Let's get the Catholic Church on board. That'll even push the P5 further. Let's get justice for the First Peoples and all Canadians. There's a tremendous wealth waiting for every Canadian and First Nations. All of you, everybody. We have to stop. Stop all of it. Every man, woman, and child, I promise you. There's tremendous wealth. Now, the big elites don't like it. They don't like the idea of prices falling on everything. They like you guys all working hard. They don't like the idea of people having the power, but we're going to get there. You'll see. I'll show you all. Thank you. Bye now. Have a great night.